Hello, I'm Luke Townsend from Twitter. I'm here at Ogilvy today to talk about the power of Twitter as a platform. We're going to have a look at the relationship between Twitter and television. We're then going to look at some of the best brands in the marketplace who are operating in the real-time space. And then we're also going to look at the way Twitter is a social accelerator and can tell very rich stories. Okay, let's get into it then. So, when we think of Twitter, it's very much an interest network as opposed to a social network. What I mean by that is, in the traditional social network sense, I friend you, you friend me back. Whereas on Twitter, it's very much a one-way follow. So we pioneered that. So you can effectively just follow your interests and follow individuals you want to follow without them having to follow you back. So it's a different type of relationship. It's more of an interest network. Twitter is also quite unique in the fact it's very much a reflection of what's happening in the real world. So when an event happens on Twitter, be that an earthquake in Japan, be that a monsoon in Thailand, or wherever it may be, it's very much reflected on the platform by the way it's talked about. The way we like to think about Twitter as well is very much live, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about television, but just as an illustration of how live Twitter is, I'm just going to show you this really highbrow example from Britain's Got Talent. Two hashtags on here, one of them is BJT and the other one is egg. Some of you may remember this scene. And I always dream the impossible dream. But also really interesting to see the effect that the egg chat had on the actual hashtag, the Britain's Got Talent. So the mentions of Britain's Got Talent actually increased as people start talking about this egg incident. So just a few stats around TV. So how big is Twitter and TV? Well, 60% of UK Twitter users use Twitter while watching television, which is quite a high stat. 40% of all Twitter traffic around peak time is about TV. And 90% of all online public conversations about TV happen on Twitter. A caveat there that Facebook data is not included because it is a private network, but everything outside of that is included. Just going to have a look at what happens when you start to play with hashtags. So the net impact of that is it connects to the wider public audience, so the mainstream. And that is the impact that the hashtag is having, bridging those audiences. If we take that a step further, you start to look at deeper integration, you start to look at deeper engagement. And I guess the real poster boy of this at the moment is the Dance Pony Dance campaign you would have all seen for Three. A very, very good example of Twitter and the hashtag being integrated at every touch point. So they have it at every digital touch point, their websites, their digital comms, their above the line, print TV, you name it, it was integrated. So what I'm going to show you now, and if any of you didn't see the campaign, one of the objectives was to get somebody to tweet their own version of the Dance Pony Dance ad, and the winner would be put into the last frame of the TV ad. So we're just going to have a look at the winner now. Pretty good. So really interesting to see at the end there is they integrated his handle as well, which obviously gives social kudos to him on Twitter. It's going to bring him more followers and it's going to attract him more of an audience. And then interesting, of course, that they use the hashtag at the end to obviously stimulate more conversation. And the net effect of that is they got a great deal more coverage. So over 200,000 tweets with the hashtag DancePonyDance, and they reached an audience of 23 million. So obviously spreading outside of the UK because it was so successful and talked about. So if we bring all that together and look at it in review, this is the way that you can approach television, and we can have a look at some averages here. So if you take the first example, the Freeview example is you can do nothing, don't have any Twitter integration, you can listen and take feedback about the piece of ad content. The second stage is obviously adding in the hashtag, so bridging audiences and combining conversation, a little bit like glue. And then the next stage is thinking about how you use some of Twitter's promoted products, things like keyword targeting to actively tap into people talking about your content or your ad. And then the next stage is to take that deeper integration that we saw with Dance Pony Dance. So just to wrap up television, I think it's quite obvious to say that the social call to action is the hashtag. So think about the types of hashtags you have in your TV ads and your content. Think about social TV spot selection. So we ran through a bunch of different types of shows. Which of those types of shows are relevant to your brand? And then lastly, think about how you can amplify what you're doing from an organic perspective using Twitter's products. And just a really nice example coming up here of how Twitter's being used within society. There's a really small town called Jaén in Granada State in Spain. And what the mayor wanted to do there is he wanted to connect better with the local people and allow them to talk to the government in a more effective way in raising issues and concerns. So what he did at every touch point within the city, within any organisation, he integrated Twitter. So the example here is the police. There's the police @ handle there on the uniformed officer, and they even have it on the police cars as well. So just an illustration of how that actually works out. There's an example here from a resident of Jaén who tweets the mayor, who is Jose Antonio, and says, look, there's an electrical box that's open, it's a little bit of a hazard for children, is there any way we can get someone to fix this? And amazingly, the mayor tweets back and says, don't worry about it, we're on the case, and tweets the electrician. The electrician then tweets back and says, no problem, it's all fixed, problem averted, and the whole thing was resolved. So just really interesting to see the way that Twitter is being integrated into society. So obviously that's on a much smaller scale, there are only 3,000 people in Jaén, and I imagine it's quite hard to do something like that in London.